Okay, so we start from the I series. And the I series, you type in CPT, REP, GEN. We're obviously waiting until that is working on your system. But that will open up an internet window and you will be signed in as yourself to your online report generator. And the reports that you have in your I series, we have pulled over into report generator. And they come in, these are the reports that were in my I series and were pulled over. They'll come in on this main report list. So on every page, like I say, most of what I say here today will be available through our help links, which are in the little question mark here. For every page, we have help links written up. You are the first county to be seeing them. So if there's something that you wish was there that's not, or that is confusing there, let us know. But we've had a couple people look through them and they seem helpful to us. Now, next to that question mark on each page, you'll have an X. If we were in a report, this X would be blue, and it would close us out of the report and send us back to the list. Because we're in the list, we can't use the X. Your report list automatically lists your reports, so the reports that were made by you that you own. If you want to see everyone's reports, down at the bottom here, you would click View All, and then it would show other reports that other people had made. So suddenly RJ has one on my list. Just looking at the columns, we have category. This is the type of report. So if it was made in the assessors report generator, it says assessor, auditors. We have treasurers previous year, legal, sales ratio, ditches, CAMA. We now have, you can make them all from this menu. And when we make a report, I'll show you how to do that. Then it lists the user. Then there's the name. And for the ones that pulled through from the I series, you have the old name and description. When you make your own, you can make them whatever you want. I obviously am super creative with my naming. And then we have the type of report. There's standard and custom, and we'll show you how to make both. You do that inside the report, telling it basically just how to print. And then we have a report ID. This is generated by the computer. So every report will have a unique ID. You can have two reports that have the same name because they'll have a different ID, which could be confusing, but we also show you when they were created and when they were last run. So when you get in here and you look at yours, you might want to go look at the ones that were, you run previous or recently-ish, and make sure they're running the way you want them to run. For all of these columns, you can sort. So if I show you the last run, if I click on a column, it sorts A to Z, or oldest to newest. And if I click on it again, it sorts Z to A, or newest to oldest. I can also release that. And if I click on my little sandwich menu here, I can look for a specific date, or if I was over here, I could look for a specific name. We'll get into that a little bit more when we're looking for fields and reports. And then these columns here don't have those, obviously, because there's not much to do in them. This is a copy. So you can open somebody else's report, you can change it, you can run it, but you can't save any changes. If you want to save changes to report, you have to own that report. So there's two ways to do that. You can open another person's report, make changes, and then at the end say, I want to save this as my report. Or you can, at the beginning, start by copying someone else's report and then give it, your own name and make changes and use it as your report. You can also, here's a quick export to PDF and export to Excel. So without going into a report, you can have it generate based on the parameters that you put in when you made it out here. And we'll do that once we make one. And then this is delete a report. So it'll say, are you sure you want to delete? And you can delete it. You cannot delete other people's reports. So there's no X for other people's reports. Another thing to note is if you hover over a line, it will show you any notes. When we go into a report, I'll show you the spot where you can add notes that will print on your options page. and that will show up when you hover. So if there's no notes, you just get 3 dots. I added a lot of notes, this one. You can add a lot of notes, but it's just helpful sometimes to get a little bit more information about these reports by hovering over them. Any questions, anyone from CPT? See anything I missed? Okay, so then the other thing we can do from here is we can make a new report. When we make a new report, we'll give it a name. This is my big stone report. And I'm going to do a CAMA report just because there are some additional notes with some of the CAMA fields. So if we make a CAMA report, we can get them later. So when you make a new report, it opens to your fields page where you get to select what fields you want. For every tab in the reports, it shows you all of the available tabs, and you can kind of jump back and forth by clicking on these tabs, or if you go down to the bottom, it allows you cancel here with exit. It allows you to go through next, previous, and it's going through these tabs up here as I next and previous at the bottom. You can see over here on the right, we still have the help page, which would give me the help page for the fields tab. And then if I hit X, I would get out of the report. So oops, I went out of the report and I didn't mean to because we want to be in that report. I know it's my most recent report, so my shortcut for that is to click this twice. My most recent report comes to the top. You can get your own shortcuts, but when we go in here, we now have on the right, and this will be true for all of these, so you can go back to your report list. You can make a new report right from here, or you can make a copy of this report by saving it as. If you want to just save it, you can save it down here. And then there are some other options for saving it, as we export it, but you can save it as a copy, make a new report list. So when we go through here, the selected column, obviously we select what fields we want. The field is the name of the field, and then the text is the description of that field. If you hover over here, you can get more information about some of these fields if it's available. So if you're wondering what something is, that sometimes can help by hovering over it. Over here is the file. So say I want to look at others. I like this one and I want other ones like it. I want the TXAVAL file. I can sort by TXAVAL, or I can go in here and I can type TXAVAL, and it'll pull up all of the fields in that file. I can do a multi-sort, and then the description is going to tell you that's the description of the file. So this is the value file. We can also see we have owner files, we have value files, parcel files. So it can be helpful to know what type of file you're looking for. So if I want to add some columns, I picked some columns. I'm going to add some fields. I picked some fields that I thought would be helpful. I want fields that you can choose contains. Of this list, the ones that are really helpful in our report generator tend to be contains, not contains, or starts with. The rest of them are not as helpful. That information is in the help menu. So I'm going to say something that starts with a Y. I know a lot of my fields that I want are Ys. And then I don't want deeded acres. I want building value. And I want house and garage. I'm going to say house. Where's house and garage? There it is. So I'm going to go back here and do contains. And it keeps the filters until you remove them. So if you want to get a different filter, you would get a different filter. I want a parcel number.
Just to interrupt you, Matt's got it set up. And so Danny, if you want to try the typing that on the line, you should get in.
Yep. Thank you, Michelle. So yeah, go back to your iSeries.
Just as a comment he made, if CPT changes the ports like this, we have to add them as they are non-standard web ports. So
good to know. Yep.
So yeah, I wanted to say that to you guys too, as long as I had you on the line.
Perfect.
Okay.
So if you guys are going to sign in, I'll maybe wait and let you catch up. So you're looking at the same screen we're looking at. Let me know when you're there and then we'll keep going.
You want us to just set up a draft report is what you want us to do here?
You know,
do
you
you
can
want us
do
to-
whatever you want. You can try to build a report while I build it, or you can just open one of your reports so you can be looking at the tabs as we go.
Where you're at, so I'm good.
You're
Yeah,
good,
I'm
Danny?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to add parcel number, record number. Oh, and then I wanted a township city because we'll do that too. I'm going to do a township city number. So if I clear this out, I can see what fields I've selected two ways. If I click the selected column twice, it'll pull the ones I've selected up to the top. Or if I go into my print tab, it'll list the fields I've selected in my print tab. So before we move on from the fields tab, any questions, anything to add?
I have just a question. Can you tell me again what the X and Y stand for, if anything?
Right here, the X and the
Yeah.
Y. I think they're connected to the file. So the X's are part of the parcel file and the Y's are part of the value file.
About the Z, then that switches to
Owner
owner?
file.
That
Well,
was
that's-
just for sorting.
That was just for sorting.
Yeah.
That was just, okay, so that was just for sorting purposes.
Yeah.
They do seem to, but yeah, because they tend to be like related fields. And so in the I series, these are I series fields. In the I series, this would have made them all list in the Ys, would have made them all list in the Zs. It's not as necessary since we can sort any way we want here,
Right.
but if you do starts with Y, then you're going to get all your Ys. I
Which
recognize
actually are valuable.
since we're in CAMA, I think CAMA is the only one that lists them like this. So you maybe
Okay,
don't use that, which is why you're not familiar with it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So if I move on to the print tab, we do not have our column like sorting options here because the order of the fields is the order they will print in. And instead of being able to sort them by column, we can drag them around. So your first column is your print column. You can choose whether they're going to print or not print. If we want to not print something, we would just uncheck it and that field will not print. You can change the width. If you make the width smaller than the header, it doesn't get smaller. It's going to be as large as whatever the header is on the output. But you can make it larger and you can bring it down to the size of the header. And then we have again the field name, the field description, the file name, the file description. So if I'm going to drag something around here, I'm going to say I want parcel number. And then, well, actually, I'll just leave the township.
When
at the
you,
bottom. That's fine.
Susie, when you say the header, what part are we referring to? So we know how long or not is the header? What are you referring to with the header?
So when we export these to a report, it's the top of the report. So
We wouldn't know that until we actually try and download it to know how big it actually is.
right, so here's one that I made of yours, and like this year appraised probably is only a 2 wide field, but it's going to be this wide in your report because we have to get that full header in there. Does that make sense?
Sorry,
yes.
it does. It's just weird that we can't know that until we actually try and print it. So when
Yeah.
we're trying to set up those fields, it'd be nice to know what the minimum actually can be, but.
Right. Well, so what you'll have to do is export it, look at it, say, this is not how I want it, change it, come back and change it. In all reality, that's probably what you'll end up doing anyway. You know, we have width fields that make sense to us in here. And so this is probably close to what you'll want. When I was playing around with this, I think there was once or twice when I thought, oh, I actually want that to be, you know, wider, or I don't actually care if it prints all of that. And I made it narrower. But in general, these are, you know, if you were going to make this in the I series where you didn't get to decide, you just wouldn't get to decide. But these are, you know, kind of our best guess at width fields. But you can come back later and change them. So I drag them around so that this top one is going to be my far left column, and then this bottom one is going to be my far right column, and I'm not going to print this parcel value record, so we're not going to see that. Other questions on this page? Next is our sorting. So a default sort is by parcel number. And if you add sorts and then it gets to the end of those sorts, it will then sort by parcel number. I'm going to say I want it to sort by township city. You can do ascending or descending. I want it to sort by township city, and then within the township city, I want it to sort by building value. So it's the same drag thing that we had in the print tab, only this is not affecting the print. The print will stay the same. This is affecting just sorting order. And then you can decide here if you want to have it break by any of these fields. So do you want a section break or a page break, which is also a section break? And I'm going to say let's page break by the township city number. In order to have a section or page break by a field, you have to be printing that field. And that it does say that in the help menu. So if there's an issue that's not working, you can always go look in that help page. But it's pretty common for me to want to break by township city, but I don't actually feel like I need it to print. So sometimes I accidentally unclick it in the print tab and then have to come back here and add it so I can break by it. Questions or comments? And we'll go to the filters tab. So we're going to start with just really basic filters. You can get really interesting with these, and I'll come back and explain that later, but I'm just going to add a township city filter. So you can choose any of the fields that you selected to filter by. You can choose a variety of conditions, equal to, not equal to, you know, the less than, greater than, those are really only helpful for number fields. The like is really only helpful for non-number fields. For any of these top ones, you can either put your variable answer in here, or you can click prompt, which means when you export it here or from the report list, if you were to click generate a PDF or generate an Excel, it would prompt you for the answer to this. If you choose range, you cannot put that here. It has to be a prompt. Does that all make sense? So we're just going to do a basic filter here. And then once we export it, we'll come back and play around with some of these filters. And this and or thing here and all of that. So we go to our summary. In the summary tab, you can choose to have a total. You can only total for certain, number fields. So it's not going to, total is like adding everything up. You can't add up all the parcel numbers. That doesn't make sense. But when you have these building values, you can. So we'll do all of these. You can count anything. But you can only total, min, max, av, the number of fields. So we'll do those, and then we'll go look at them in our output, and you can see what they mean. And then the last page is the output page. There's lots of different options here. So we can, summary means it would give us only, like in this case, the township summary, because that's what I'm sorting by. No, the summary means it's going to give us all the details, all the parcels. Page orientation, I can do portrait or landscape. Since mine doesn't have that many columns, I'm doing a portrait. I can pick my letter size. I can tell it to create a PDF or an Excel. You can always remove protected officials if you want from a report. The staggered total lines will show you what that looks like when we export. We're saying yes to the stagger, which is helpful for large numbers. And then I am going to print an options page. Options page is going to be the first page of my report. And I'm going to tell it to hit notes. So my subheading is going to be Susie, and my notes is going to say made for Big Stone. So you can see where it is. You can also change the margins for your report and the font size here. So if you need to change any of that, you can.
One question before you hit whatever you're going to hit.
Yeah.
When you do the Excel version, is it going to print the titles in the column headings versus column 1, column 2, column 3?
Right, when you make an Excel,
Yeah.
the headings will go at the top of the columns. Yep,
Thank you.
we'll do both. Okay, so you saw me, I clicked save report and it said, my session has timed out. I will need to log in again. That is the reason to save as you go. You know, our system saves on the screen as we go along. If I go back through it here, it's going to save, have everything in here that I have. But if I somehow timed out, it lets me keep going, and I don't know that I timed out until I come here. Right now, if I was still signed in, I could hit submit and save. It would generate for that, whatever year I chose here. Oh, is it going to let me do it? Townships 1 to 2. I bet once I get to the end, it's going to say my session is timed out. But my session is timed out, so I have to get out of here and sign back in. Which means probably,
I was checking out for that.
Everything you did, just you got to redo?
everything I just did, I'm going to have to redo. Now, usually,
What's the timer on that?
Yeah.
usually it times me out after an hour. So I'm a little bit surprised that I timed out so quickly here. And I'm not even signed into theirs. This is just mine. Like, this is what I've always been doing, you know? So thankfully we have RJ here and he will look at this for us.
Almost be nice if before it timed out, it sent a box that says, hey, you're gonna be, you know, signed out soon, please hit save, so that we kind of know when we should be doing that. If we
That would be
don't,
really nice.
but-
Yeah, well, and usually it only times out if you're not active. Like, I've never had it time me out while I'm doing something. It's, well, I have to walk away and not do anything. So that
Right.
is a bug that it should not be doing. You know, if you get stuff like that, let us know, because it's more like when I get called away and I wasn't anticipating not being here, you know, and I come back and I'm like, oh shoot, it didn't save all my information.
Now, implementing like an inactive timer when it doesn't do a request to the database wouldn't be that hard. Like after 20 minutes, if you haven't done a request to the database, that's how it determines your session.
Okay,
So you could probably do something like a pop-up that comes up and then
do you still want to
if you
stay
wanna
active?
save if you're in there.
Yep.
That's the main issue, is like when you're editing, you don't want it to just get rid of everything. So,
Yeah,
Right.
right.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think we should probably implement
I agree.
We appreciate you being in our first round of testers here and giving us all this good feedback.
you know, we're not shy. Is that why you're saying that, Susie?
Yes, yes, I appreciate all your feedback. I know you'll give me whatever, you know, your opinion is, Michelle, but I want Danny to feel like he can too. I don't know him well enough to know if he's just gonna. give it-
Danny, take my place.
All right, sounds good. I'm taking lots of notes.
Okay, so if I click submit, it will go through. I just saved my report, so it'll be saved, but it's not going to, if I click just submit, it's not going to save my answers to my filters. If I click submit and save, then when I get these pop-up filters, it's going to save my answers. So the next time I run it, it's going to pre-fill those answers. So if you're in CAMA, it's going to ask you for a CAMA library. If you're not in camera and you have 2 years of files on, it's going to ask if you have 2 years of files on. Are there any other like filters that show up that we don't, pop-ups that we don't have to tell it to do? CAMA, new year, old year. Those are the two that I thought of. Okay. And then I'm just going to do 2 townships here. So we have a short report, but you can see the section breaks. And then this goes into your downloads folder. So here's my my options page, where it'll tell me like all the choices that I made, you know, what filters I was running, the report fields. Oh, shoot, when I went in, let's redo this. I didn't say to print the report notes. So let's get it with those report notes. So these are the notes that, this notes section down here is going to be what will show up when you hover over it on the main report screen. And they're also going to show up in your report notes here.
Okay, can you go back to the report generator? Because mine is not asking me the townships when I click submit and save.
Okay, so you did this with me. Did you choose a township city number filter?
Yep,
In your filters tab, you have a
I
township
did-
city
I did
number.
do
Did
range.
you choose range?
perfect.
So then you have this prompt field.
Yep,
And then when you go to output and you click submit, it asks you for a camel library,
yep.
but then it's not giving you the,
Now it is. I didn't have the range on there. That was
okay, yep. So
Okay.
if you don't have a range, then the default is for it to assume that you're going to put a variable in here and not prompt you for it.
okay.
Had to put that variable in there. It's just the range that gives us the automatic prompt. Okay, good. So
Yep.
then if we go into our report,
Oh, in that, in your options page there,
Yeah.
are we gonna get it so that, like, I see that one line is covered up by the other line? Is that just a
Remove
spacing
protected
thing in
official.
layout?
yeah, this remove protected official, it rolls over.
Oh,
We did fix a bunch of that. That's the only one that's still there. We'll make that note, RJ. He's typing. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. So then you can see in here, I have a whole bunch of building values that are empty. If I go down to the end of one.
Sorry, I was typing something else. What was that?
Oh, hold on. Were you typing something else, Maria?
I was thinking about that idle timer thing.
Oh, the idle
Okay,
timer. This
yep.
remove protected official is overlapping.
Overlapping?
Can we fix that?
Just another anal Michelle comment is,
Yep. release
some
the-
things have colons and some things don't. Is there
Hold on, what, Michelle?
the colons? I mean, do you need the colons there?
Right, the font size doesn't have a
Font doesn't
colon.
have a colon, but,
The rest of them do. Do we need the colons?
and the ones below in report fields don't. I mean, it's a column, so you know, for that, you go over and look what it is. I was just curious. Just looks kind of weird to me, but that's me, my anal me again.
I would agree. I think we could get rid of the colons. Yeah.
Summer's due.
All right. So I
My first
didn't
note
add
was
my
Should I
breaks.
say anal Danny? The anal Danny?
Yes.
All right.
Did you have something to say? No, you're just trying to channel your anal Danny?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you work on that.
All right, perfect.
All right, so I added back in my page breaks here. So if I go down to the end of Township 1, you can see I have the counts for the counts. This is the number of parcels we have. We have 631 really value records because it's listing a parcel for every value record. Only 235 of those have building values and 36 have house and garage values. So you can see how it's totaling those here. And then we have, or it's counting those here, excuse me. And then the totals are adding up all of the building values and house and garage values. And then we have mins and maxes and averages. That's just for Township 1. If I scroll down to the bottom of the report, you can see that they give that to me for Township 2. And then we get it for the total report.
Another
that's-
weird question from me on your totals there. Why is the 230 on its own line? Why can't it be up with the
So
same
that
line as the other counts
is-
under building value?
This is the staggered totals. So if I go out here and I say, do I want to stagger
Well,
my
that's
line
what that
totals?
means. Okay, sorry.
Nope. That was exactly what I needed you to ask because I said I was going to show you once we export it. If we stagger our line totals, it does. If I say no, it definitely makes those prettier. these, report
It's
counts. It
just,
makes them
to me,
prettier.
that's easier to read, but
Yes, the issue that we get into is sometimes when we're doing these totals here, the total is wider than the column and people don't want to make their columns wider. So you can stagger your totals so that it's easier to read this line. But right now the default is to stagger, and I wonder if we want the default to be not to
That's
stagger.
because that's what the I series did.
Right, the I series staggered.
So I think for now,
We'll leave it for now until we have quite a few counties using it and we see how everyone uses
Yeah,
it.
see how that,
Because
Yeah.
it is, if you don't stagger these, if this was like 22, 220, 880, 800, you would just be you'd be missing it. Like it would just not be there. Where if it's staggered, it is going to show up.
Alternatively, if you don't want the stagger and you still want to make it fit, you could just go to the width on.
that
Yep.
would be a workaround.
We can go, and if you don't want to stagger it, you can go here and you can say, this is where like the building value is certainly it's wide enough for the field, but if you want it to look good, not staggered, you could change that. And then have it look prettier,
Lots
not
of
staggered.
options.
Well, it already was 15, so how about I make it, see, because is it? If I make them both, then we'll see. So yeah, now they're wider. And you can see them here. So those are your options. You can stagger or not stagger. Make the columns wider if you need to, play around with it however you want. Now, if we were to export this to an Excel, it's going to pull. Then the column widths don't matter, because you decide that in Excel for yourself. But then, it's not going to pull in the counts and the max and the min. It's just going to list them. And you can add all that yourself in here if you want. It's still going to sort the way we asked it to sort. It's just not going to pull in those extra things. So to play around with the filters, unless someone has a question, I'm going to start playing with these filters. So say I want still the townships, but I don't want the zeros. So if I'm going to say the house and garage is not equal to 0, or I could say it's greater than 0. That's going to give me house and garages with positive. And it's not going to give me the pop-up because I put that value in there. It's just going to give me a shorter list. Only those in my designated townships. I guess I'll go back to PDF next, but only those in my designated townships that have house and garage values. And then if we're pretending here, back to PDF, let's say I want those with house and garages, and I want them to either have a house and garage, or I want them to be like an ag property that has a large building value. So I could go and I could pick assessment code here.
Slow down just a hair.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just saying if you could slow down just a hair.
Will do. So if I say I want my township city range, and then I want that to either and a house and garage, not equal to 0, or I want a building value greater than 500,000. Say we want them to have a commitment to their building, and we'll pick some ag actually so that we don't have more pop-ups. Let's just do, we want a 101 assessment code. Okay. So now we're playing around with this or, and the way we have it in here is going to be goofy, but I want you to see how it makes it goofy. Are you caught up, Danny?
Seconds, 2 seconds.
Yeah, you tell me when you're ready.
Good now.
Okay. So then if we go to our output, I'm going to submit it again. Same options as before, 1 to 2. And then we can see here, I'll have in Township 1, we have house and garage values, and then we have some that don't have a house and garage, but that do have those large building values. And then for Township 2, I don't have any. They all have house and garages. But now I'm getting Township 3, Township 4, Township 5. And the reason for that is because of the way this OR filter works. This OR filter kind of breaks. It is a break in the filters. So it's going to give me everything that's in the township cities and has a house and garage, or anything that has a building value. I lost my greater than. And an assessment code equal to. And I lost my equal to. Oh, they gave me prompts. That's weird. I've never seen that before, but I will be attempting to replicate it later today. That's my job.
Might be a bug. You just found a bug, Susie.
I'm really good at that. It's a good thing RJ likes me. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be talking. So if I wanted these building value and assessment codes only in the same township city, I'd have to add it down here, because this OR is going to give me everything that meets the conditions above it and everything that meets the conditions below it. Anything that meets one set of conditions or the other set of conditions. So if I want the building code and the assessment code filters to only be for that township city range, I'd have to add that township city range below the OR filter. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The OR.
Mine did the same thing. I got rid of my.
Oh,
value.
it got rid of yours.
Yeah.
It gave you the prompt.
Yep.
So, but and when you unprompted it, did it come right back?
Yes. Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll be playing around with that. Okay. So if we go in here and submit, it's going to, here's my first prompt from 1 to 2, and then here's the one I just added. From 1 to 2. So now it's going to give me only 1 and 2, townships 1 and 2. That to me is the goofy part. If I was to go out and I was to run it out here, I can say I just want a PDF, and it's going to give me the pop-ups, the comma, and then I need to know, what does this 1 to 2 mean? What does that 1 to 2 mean? I mean, maybe I do, maybe I don't. So for someone else's, you can certainly, go in and see what are they for, how are their filters set up, so you can decide what you want. All right. My next topic is getting into comma filters. So if you have anything else, you can holler. But where we get into comma filters is when we're doing major and minor filters. So we have comma filters left and custom report. I'm going to walk you through those two things. The comma filters is kind of a basic. So if you get major and minor categories, you cannot have a major category filter without also having a minor category filter. I'm going to go change these. You're right. You're right. Thank you, RJ. You cannot pick a minor category without having its major category. So I'm going to get rid of my filters. And I'm going to pick CO minor because I added that minor category and major category. Danny, if you're adding one, add one that you know you have stuff in. I had to go look and see what I had.
Okay.
So, and it'll tell me you're missing the major category. And if I didn't have the major category added to the report, it would add it to the report at this point. It might not print it, but it would add it so that it could add it here. Major and minor categories, you cannot use the variable here. You have to have a prompt. And we'll see why when we go to the output. So if I submit it here, it's gonna give me, will ask me what major categories I want. If I know the name of it, I can input it here. More often you'll click this down and it'll give you the options for major categories. So I'm gonna pick a couple, low-rise apartment and bank, because I want you to see how it works when you pick more than one. So if I pick my major categories and then I click submit, I'm going to get a minor category pop-up for each of the major categories that I picked. So you can do just a major.
Cool.
Why am I getting a building value? Wow, you guys, we had it working so well, and then we show it to you and
First
it's,
was the demo.
and it's freaking out. Mhm.
Big Stone, did you forget who you were working with? We always have that. Well, that never happens to anybody else.
Oh, Michelle, it's not quite that bad, is it?
It has been pretty much over the years, Gwen. I'd call and go, oh, no one's complained about that. I'm like, how not? Do they not use this feature?
I'm actually gonna go out.
Oh.
No, I set this up like 2 weeks ago when we talked. I went through, I'm like, this is what I want to do. And then I ran it again last week to make sure it was working. And then I ran it again yesterday to make sure it was working. And then we get here and it's not working.
Jay's probably just playing with you, Susie.
I know. Actually, RJ probably went on last night and was like,
I actually want more work to do.
so I went out and back in and it saved. So hopefully this time it will. My major categories. And then, yes. And then it's going to tell me, this is for apartment low rise. What minor categories do you want? And you select them. And then it will list the next one. This is for bank. What minor categories do you want? And you select them. And then it will
No, I'm
generate.
not a CAMA user, so I'm not really following some of this, but if I was a new employee and went to that, how would I know that that's what it is? It doesn't have that saying now select your minor. You know what I mean? You're talking major, minor, but like, where does it tell me that that's a minor?
I've added it here. So like
Right?
you
But
would
now
not
when you
have a
see
new,
the screen,
oh, you
you
would not
don't know
have a new
what,
employee doing this who hadn't been working in the CAMA subsystem and knew. But yeah, it says, please enter your CAMA major
Yep.
categories. And then here it doesn't say, choose your minor categories.
yeah, I
I
just
don't
think
know
that
if
would
you
be
wanna add that or not.
helpful, but I don't know.
Danny, you do work.
On the top is what category you're in, but maybe just say minor category apartment.
Right, so if we do here, it says, please enter values for major categories.
That makes
then
sense to me.
List the major categories, and then it should be like, please choose minor categories.
Like ours are usually gonna be like the one I selected, it was average, cheap, low. Or we have a high. Yeah. Usually we have 3 categories like that. So I guess that does
Or
make
even-
sense to me.
Or even over that, where you know, once you select them over and it pulls them over to that white box, maybe
Right
over
here.
that white box, you could have a column heading saying minor categories or something. I don't know.
Selected, minor category selected or something over here.
Yeah, I don't, just something that, as a reminder that, well, these are the minors now that you're doing, and that's what that is. And
So-
granted, someone that's been using it, I get just gonna know that kind of stuff, but we're also trying to make this work for new employees too, I would hope, that kind of helps them get into it, makes it clear.
Yeah, although they're probably not going to be running CAMA report generator categories until they're at least somewhat familiar with CAMA and, know what they're doing in there. Now so the outputs, we do have all of this explained on the help menu for CAMA. So if there's issues, you can go there too. But yeah, that's a good thought. RJ's making more points. So that's the note about the CAMA filters. The last thing to do is to make a custom report, and that you do in the print tab, because it's just a different way to print the report. You go down here and you pick custom report. Now your custom reports are your letters, your mailers, your, things like that that are going to print on the sheet. the options over here, if you make a custom report and you want to get rid of it, you can trash it right here. It will say, are you sure you want to clear out the contents? Yes, and you get back to your report, your normal report page. You can zoom into the page and zoom out of the page. If I go over here, wherever my plus sign is, I can add, if I click on it, I can add text, I can add a report field, I can add a row or remove a row. So if I add text here, taxpayer. Yep, I can come over here and I can zoom in if I want it to be that size and I want to see it better. Or if that looks small for me on the page, I can increase the size. Now this is also increasing the size on the output page. We were at 9, now we're at 11. So we are really just increasing the font size. Okay. You can select and make it bold. You can either do that here, make it bold, or I can go over here and make just a part of it bold. That, oh, I got rid of it. That is going to separate it out because it's the program's going to make everything inside of the box the same. So if you choose only part of it and make it bold, it will just separate that out for you. It's defaults to portrait. We can change it to landscape if we want to. You can change the size paper you're using. You can set your margins. These are the same margins we set on the output page. So you can do all of that. There's an undo and a redo. We can also add fields. So if we can do a report field, it will pull up all the fields that we've selected. If we want fields in here that we haven't selected, we can go back into our fields tab and select more. In here, we have all the sorting options that we had before. The default is to sort by field name. You can sort by whatever you want. You can, filter if you want to. This repeat means it's a repeating field. It can happen multiple times, and we'll play around with that a little bit just so you can see an example of it. Trim means, do you want us to insert this as wide as the field is, or do you want us to cut this off after the amount of text that you use has been inputted? So we'll play around with that a little bit too. So if I do value is going to be the one that's most obvious. If I click trim here, and then I click this one, it will input building value. And then it's going to ask me if it's a repeating field. And I'm going to say, and you can do detail, totals, or both. The best way to learn about these is just to play around with them. The number of lines is the number of lines it's going to print. So if I say 2 lines and this parcel has 4 records, it's only going to print the first 2 records. It'll print totals for everything, but it's only going to print details for the first 2 records. So you can decide the number of lines that you will allow it to print. Or you can say, I don't want this to be a repeating field. So for this, I'll say 5, and we're just going to do details. So that's building value. So I want to put some more fields, rows in here. So if I add rows, and we'll say 4 parcel number. And then after this, I'm going to click here and I'm going to add the parcel number. Oh, I picked the wrong parcel number. I wanted the one that was a repeating. Let's go get the one that was a repeating parcel. That's what I want, because that's connected to the value record. See, I can tell that these are repeating because they're both in the value file. So for parcel number, then I'm going to pick my parcel number. And then it's going to ask me how many lines. I don't want it to list multiple parcel numbers if there's multiple records. So I'm going to say non-repeat for parcel number this. With, oh, oops, I'm going to enter text with below value. And then here, maybe I don't, maybe I decide I don't want to put it here. I want to put it down here. I should be able to put a plus sign on this side. Sometimes my screen doesn't like me. There we go. With values of, so there's values of, and maybe for each value, I want to have the record number with it. So then I could go in here and I could choose the record number. Oh, I'm going to have it on repeating. It has to be
You
the
just did
same,
one.
has to be the
repeat
same
line.
repeating. What?
You did one repeat line, so.
Right. I got to do parcel value record number. If I do 5 repeat lines, then I can have that there. So we'll just run the report. Again, you can make it however you want. You can put things before or after. If I decide I want it to be bold, I can make it bold. If I want it to trim, T is that trim, which we could do. I can have it trim here, or I can have it untrim here. If I click X, that's going to remove it. So if I go into output, I'm just going to keep the last options I had. Dear taxpayer for parcel number. Now I can see that I need to add a space here, so I could go in and add a space. Maybe I don't want this to be as wide as it is. If I trimmed these, they would move closer together. You can go in and make whatever changes you want. All right, is that making sense? Is there something you'd like to see me do again here? If I wanted to add a space between them, I could put text and add space between them. You can do whatever kind of, you can add rows. If I want to get rid of this row, I would click on it and click get rid of row.
Can you give me an example what we would use this page for? 'Cause I guess it's kind of,
So
I'm understanding what you're doing, but I guess I don't know what I'd use that for.
Yeah, and this is going to be when you're, I think it's used more often by the auditor's office, custom reports are. It's when you're mailing letters or something to to taxpayers.
Usually to
Mhm.
inform them of something, and it's just like a custom letter. We are also going to be adding labels though, as an option in here.
Okay,
So yeah, you would probably use it less often.
all right.
Custom reports were an option in the old system too. They're much easier to use here. But if you didn't use them in the old system, you're likely to not use them in the new system.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
Well,
Because I think people were afraid of custom reports.
Yeah.
Not Michelle, but a lot of people.
all right, so there's your basic overview.
Just out of
Anything else?
curiosity,
Yeah.
on our property characteristics report that we get from you guys that I thought came from CAMA, is that something Danny could run now himself? Then with this new report generator? Or no?
No, I don't think so. I'm not completely sure, but I think that comes off of our web files, which are not in report generator. I'm not sure if maybe we could build it. If you could build it, maybe.
What do you mean off your web files?
So we gather up all of our information that we port over to the CPT tax web. And we put them in about, instead of having 25 files, we put them in about probably 5 to 8 files. And then we port it across to our CPT web and we display the information. But you don't have our web, so I guess that doesn't mean we can't generate those files or use them for that. I would have to look at what that is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But it seems to me it's called what,
Well, it's
Michelle?
like they want the number of bedrooms and they want, you know, some of that stuff. So wherever that
yeah, that's
information,
from-
we
that's
enter
from-
that.
Yeah, that's from CAMA.
Yeah,
I
I would think those fields would have been in the list somewhere, wouldn't they have?
I think they are. I think they are. That would be data that you could get from report generator.
Just be play around, I guess, to see what's even in that file. I don't even know what's all in there, but,
Yeah. Go into the fields here and see if you can find them.
yeah. You know me, I'm not scared to play around. I'll make Danny though
Mhm.
play around in Canva, but, oh, well, let's take a look. I was just curious if that would help us.
So hopefully this gets you going. Feel free to call with questions. We also wonder if it might be helpful in, you know, a couple weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to sit down again when you've been using it and you're like, okay, I need it to do this. How did you make it do that again? Or whatever. You can see how it goes using it and we can communicate about, you know, if there's ongoing feedback that would be helpful.
And we just have a general question for you to think about. And obviously you're testing so you can get into what we call all of the categories. So CAMA, assessor, treasurer, auditor, auditor's delinquent. There's about 8 of them. But our question is, if when we get into the real world, like, would that be tamped down? So like, Michelle, you wouldn't want the assessor's office into your auditor delinquent treasurer files. And on the assessor's side, we really don't want anybody in the county running CAMA report generators or assessors report generators. That's a question we have. We have a way to do it. We're just wondering, you know, what the thoughts are about that. So just think
Yeah.
about it as you're going through here.
I do know that sometimes the information I get requests for includes some auditor data and some assessor value data. You know, in the past, I've had to go into the assessor side to run what I need to send to somebody. So CAMA for sure, I don't need to do anything like that. But just so you're aware, that sometimes I need assessor values, not necessarily taxable values at a particular point in the year to give to somebody.
It isn't so much that you can't, and we can customize that to, Michelle can go into Splat All, just like we have you now. It's more the other way. I absolutely don't want everybody in CAMA. That's what
Yeah,
I'm asking.
As we're
Or,
going through, will you want us to
or
limit?
you may not ever use it, but you could. That's the question. Can it be accessible, or do we have to have cutoffs?
Here's my question back to you is it something that someone could screw up if it's just report generator?
We never update data. There's no updating of data. And you can't take someone's report, you can only copy it. You can't delete someone's report, you can only copy it. The only thing you can screw up, and I don't think that's maybe the term, it's, oh, I could tell Joe Blow his CAMA values are this, this, this.
Yeah.
And the
you-
assessor's office might not like you doing that. I mean, that's the only thing, is the information that you would get something. I don't think we need the auditor treasurer's office seeing that. And this is not directed at anybody here. This is just a general question.
Are there any of these reports that you would maybe not want certain individuals to have access to that information?
That information, it's not that you're gonna mess anything up. No, there's no data updated here.
So here's one question, because like I don't need access to social security numbers, right? The assessor's office has those in. Is there anything like that in any of these reports? Okay,
Social security numbers are not in report generator.
okay.
No.
I just wanted to make sure of that, so because that would be an issue for us.
Yep, no. They are not here, so nobody, even the assessor's office doesn't access them through report generator.
Okay.
So
They
Glenn,
used
are you saying that you want to have them redo their access from what they currently have on the iSeries side to modify what's in report generator?
I don't quite understand the question, Jay.
So when you set somebody up, they're in the auditor's office, they only have auditors access to their file sets. You're saying now that you could allow those auditors folks access, but are we gonna just set them up as a regular auditor user the way they're currently set up on the iSeries and just see those auditors' files?
Right, it's when,
We can do that. I mean, we have a file, a security file built that can
Yep.
go either way. It can only allow you to see like what you would on the iSeries, like auditors delinquent, maybe treasurers, depending upon what office you're in. Or we have what we're using for testing, which is an all, meaning you
Yep.
can see everything. And we're just wondering how counties feel about it. We can go either way, but we haven't actually written the program to maintain that security file. And we're just really asking the question right now.
what they
My
want.
only, my only concern would be, like I said, in the past, I've had requests that I need tax data and I need value data. And in the past, I've had to run mine out of the auditor's side and then go to the assessors and run the assessors. Am I gonna be able to do that in one report now?
And this is by user. So you can say, oh, I'm Michelle and I have to do that. So I need splat all of them. I need all of them. And you can say, but there's my employees in my office. I don't really think they need to do all that. So there's that option too. And I think what I'm hearing is maybe we're just gonna have to do it that way. And that's okay. That's okay.
But as which way, Gwen, which way are you saying?
The way where you can tamp it down or you can give somebody all.
Where you can have access to all, and then if you want to limit somebody, you can.
Yeah,
And I don't even need access to all. I just need certain fields from the assessor side that would come over to me if that's an option, but.
Fields is by having those reports. Yep.
yeah, we get it. So I think, and thanks for that, because I mean, just even talking to one county, I mean, and it sounds like we're just gonna have to write a maintenance and you just decide what, and it's by user, so, and, of course, not everybody will have access to change that, but it's easily changeable if within your county you say, okay, employee XYZ, well, I just gave her these three, and I really think she should have one more. So be very easy to do that too, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Gwen, in Big Stone, so far, it's kind of been me that's done report generator, right? Because no one really liked report generator.
We're hoping to change that a little bit.
Yeah,
with this.
and going forward, I'm just trying to think of what staff, in my office at least, would use report generator for. I mean, currently, you guys have delinquent letters kind of already set up. I mean, is some of that gonna stay kind of that way coming over to the new e-tax where the standard delinquent letter is already formatted, or are we truly gonna do our own reports?
You will, delinquent letters and late notices will be done in custom report generator. Now, our staff will generate a few system delinquent letters and late notices that you can copy and then make your own. But as of now, the plan for late notices and delinquent letters is to use our custom report generator.
And then we would make one that you could start with, kind of like you
Yep,
have in the iSeries, but in report generator, you could change it to
Yep,
whatever you
you can
want.
copy it and you can do whatever you want with it, or you can just run the system one. It's up to you.
Is
But-
it gonna be like an option a menu, like a menu option in e-tax, or you just know you have to go to report generator to run any kind of report like that? Like, where will your system example reports be? In
Well, they
report
will go-
generator?
Yes. But how
Okay.
you'll actually get there, I would say that there'll be an option like on our regular tabs, our regular e-tax tabs that will take you to like late notices, like what we have here. And we'll, you know, okay, so currently what we do in late notices and delinquent letters is you choose your options and we generate these little files that, based on those options, that report generator uses. So you almost have to start out in e-tax with the options. So we get those files built with the information that you want on those letters, who you're sending them to, how much the amounts are, yada, yada, yada. So you'd have to start there. But can we port you directly then to report generator? Sure. I'm sure we can do that. And then you have that built and then you can pick your letter, or then at that point you can copy a letter or whatever. But that was the plan a long time ago. And I'm sure we've talked about this at meetings somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense to me, is to put that at least in e-tax going, okay, now I want to print my letters. Click on that, even if it runs me right to report generator right away.
Yep.
To see that, that'd be fine, but just so people know that, oh yeah, you got to do letters, because if we remove it from that piece and then it's just remember, you got to go to report generator to print your letters. I don't know, some people don't always pay attention to that. You know what I mean? I like it that it would, hey, your next step is once you've done this, now you need to do letters. So
Yep.
that'd be fine with me. I do like the idea of you guys at least starting as the one that kind of sets it up like a letter, so you're not redoing all of that every time. Every county has to, take the time to set all that up. If that's a standard starting point, that would at least be nice, I think.
Yep. Good. Well, thank you. Go test. Right now you have access to your iSeries report generator and this new report generator. If you wouldn't mind running reports both places and make sure that they, are pulling through the way you want them to. We did test that as much as we could, but you're looking for different things sometimes than we realize. So go do that. Play around with the report generator. If you run into any of the issues, call me, send me screenshots. We'll see what we can do, and try to get this polished off and ready to get into more counties.